You're listening to the Major Pod Network, the only place where your favorite toy store, bar, arcade, and arena are all on the same block. Scratch that major itch.
Today on the Game Marks podcast, we play Showdown, Legends of Wrestling, thanks to Megamark NYY Collector, and we are joined by New England Legend Max SmashMaster. Will this game hold up today? Will we play it forever? Woo! Or future endeavor?
You're fired!
All this plus gaming news, Clash at the Feast, and an update on Gameboree 2021. Plug in and put on those nostalgia goggles because this week's Game Marks podcast starts now. And now, the Game Marks.
Welcome to the Game Marks podcast presented by the Major Pod Network. I am Mr. Anything is Feasible, George Feis.
And I'm the man they call Johnny Clash. And today we are playing Showdown, Legends of Wrestling. We're closing out this series, and a little bit later, we're going to be joined by friend of the pod, Max SmashMaster.
Cannot wait for that. And as always, we love to hear from you. So please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and make sure you subscribe and rate this podcast wherever you choose to listen. And join in on the conversation on all forms of social media at Game Marks Pod. And find us on Patreon, patreon.com/GameMarksPod. Johnny Clash, are you ready for Showdown? Legends of Wrestling, closing a chapter. Another one.
I think we're officially closing every Acclaim wrestling game at this point. And that's kind of sad.
You know,
but
it's sad, but at the same time, you look back at the catalog of games and you're like, thank you. I'm glad this is over.
I would say hits and misses, but it's mostly misses, unfortunately. But this game, we're going to get into it later, but I feel like we mentioned this in another game. At a certain point, you have to improve, and you could only improve so much. I feel like from Legends 1 and Legends 2, this game pushed the envelope, and we'll get all into that in a little bit.
But hey, let's do a little follow-up from last week. Let's talk about Wrestle Kingdom, because, man, come a long way from my first experience with Day of Reckoning to now playing this game last week on the same engine, and double play it forever.
Double play forever. I really like this game a lot. I've been thinking about it. I haven't had time to really dig into it, but I want to go through that story mode. I would like to play this a lot more. It was a lot of fun. I love just when a game, like the controls are just user friendly and familiar, and you know, as well as everyone else that listens to this knows, I love the GameCube series. So bringing that over now and using the Japan roster, including Jamal and Brock and whatever, the Giant Bernard, I almost said Tensai. It's just fantastic.
Technically, you wouldn't have been wrong.
I know.
My big thing is, and what I've been seeing a lot online, and you're gonna hear us talk about it a little later, with Max SmashMaster, translated versions of games that were really big and successful, or maybe not even hugely widely successful games in Japan. You can go online and you could buy dubbed versions in English. You're going to hear SmashMaster talk a little later about how he actually has a Virtual Pro Wrestling for his N64, and the cartridge actually works, and it's all in English because there is a seller on eBay that has a translated ROM that he puts on the chip, makes the US compatible cartridge, and you have a working copy of Virtual Pro Wrestling, I believe 1 and 2. Translated in English, working on a US N64, and, you know, that's not really groundbreaking news if you've been a part of the gaming community, but to know that there's, you know, if you're just thinking about maybe getting to these games for the first time now because of this podcast, just know that that's out there, and, you know, I'm sure one way or another there's a way to get a translated version of Wrestle Kingdom, and, you know, the Japanese exclusive Fire Pro games. Like there's always a translation somewhere. So it's cool to know that that's there. And I'm definitely going to be on the hunt for a translated Wrestle Kingdom.
Where there's a will, there's a way. But speaking of, did you see, I believe yesterday, or maybe even today, but at the time we're recording this, that night 3 of Wrestle Kingdom is going to feature New Japan versus Pro Wrestling Noah.
Man, can we talk about how great Muda looks?
Right? Well, listen, it's Kaiji. It's Kaiji Moto. Yeah, he still looks like he could rip anyone's face off.
Holy crap. My goal in life, if I succeed at nothing else, I want to be as scary as Kaiji Muto looks at almost 60 years old. The man, I mean, if he dyed his beard, he would pass for just a regular wrestler.
All right. Well, you know what? Start by looking intimidating by age like 35.
That's too late.
Yeah, I can't wait for this. This is going to be great.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
But let's talk about our weekly schedule, because Monday you get this show ad-free on Patreon. Tuesday you get the show notes on Patreon, and GMP Game Over at 7 p.m. Now we're still playing Showdown 64. We're having a lot of fun with that. Wednesday, Future Endeavored. Last week I played WWF Betrayal. I got to the final stage and I got fed up and I rage quit pretty much. This week you get to play the same, so that's going to be fun. I was Stone Cold, so maybe you want to play as someone different so you don't have to see that shitty... I'm
going to play as Mark Miro Undertaker.
That shitty stunner over and over again. Wednesday night, main event with George Feis on twitch.tv/GameMarksPod. Join him for that. Thursday, Day of Reckoning. Last week, we dropped episode 5 of the Day of Reckoning playthrough. Episode 6 comes out this Thursday. And I actually have an idea this Friday for a Clash and Burn episode, but I'm going to keep it kind of secret till it drops for Patreon subscribers, because it's going to be pretty fun.
Okay, all right. That sounds like it's going to be...
I'm not even going to tell you, so it's going to just be...
God.
It's just going to be hilarious.
But listen, Streamer Spotlight, man, been doing a lot of good for not only just our community, but, showing love to other content creators and other channels out there on social media. And you've heard us talk about it for the last couple of weeks. This is something that is near and dear to our hearts. John, what is the Streamer Spotlight for the month of November?
The Streamer Spotlight is youtube.com/createaprowrestling. You'll hear us talk about it with Max SmashMaster later in this episode, where his school, New England Pro Wrestling Academy, is going head-to-head with Create a Pro at this moment. So go check that out on Cap TV. It's a great show. It's very well produced by Bobby Orlando. Bryce Donovan's running it right now, and you could see all the up-and-coming talent Create a Pro Wrestling. Plus, you could see the guys that you see on TV every week in their first matches. You could see MJF, Max Caster, Chris Statlander, Mark Sterling, everyone. Hey, you can see me on there. Go check it out. And while you're on YouTube, go check out our channel at Game Marks Podcast, where we finally got over... Not only did we get over that 400 threshold, we are almost near 500 already, so that History of the Road Warriors episode in all their video game glory is coming out, I would say, by early December.
I think we could slate it for the first week of December.
Don't hold us to that, because it's a lot of work to get. We literally have to go through every video game and be like, okay, and they were in this one, and they were in this one. Grab screenshots. It's a lot of work, but we're going to get it done because we're very excited about this one, and we're excited about the next one that we're going to announce during that episode.
Oh man, can't wait to tackle the next one. I'm excited for the Road Warriors, but man, that next one it's going to be something else.
Yeah.
But guys, GameMarksPod.com/shop is the number one spot to go and get all of our merch. We got gamer grips, guitar picks, we got window decals. There's links to our TeePublic and our Pro Wrestling Tee stores. If you like the podcast, you want to do a little bit more to support the podcast and, keep the lights on here at the Major Pod Network studio. That's what we're doing. We're keeping the lights on here. Please go and check out GameMarksPod.com/shop.
All right, but let's talk about Gameboree 2021. It's happening right now, where we are raising money for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, where last year we raised a little over $1,000. But George, as of right now, we are only 3 weeks into this. We are already at $1,055 plus even more from our sponsors who donated. We are going to make this the best holiday season ever, thanks to all of you, Game Marks. It's incredible. And there's also a lot of prizes up for grabs for the top donors. I think number one right now is pretty clear to us, but we can't say for sure. Someone come in at the end with a little snipe. But
hey, you never know. Crazy. If the last 3 years of doing Gameboree has shown me anything, it's that once we're past Thanksgiving and the headache of having to deal with large families around a table is gone, people start getting into that Christmas spirit.
That's right. So
and then the big donations start to come through. So it's anybody's game still.
it's anyone's game, but let's talk about these prizes right now. So the highest donor, and we'll say the second highest donor, both of them are getting Mark Out Digital Card Game codes for Steam, thanks to Mark Out Digital Card Game, one of our sponsors. Now, let's start at the top, because if you are the top donor, you are getting that Brian Myers and Matt Cardona signed Raw Tag Team title belt. That is incredible. I love it. It's beautiful. It's so nicely done and nice paint pen. Brian signed it so far. Matt's going to sign it at the Creator Pro Show in a few weeks, and I'll vlog ski that. Now, Best Batch Promotions, our good friend, he has donated. Now, let me just read the list of all these 8x10s you're getting, because it's not even limited to these. There's even more, because I make these 8x10s and I know what's coming. Brian Myers, James Storm, two different JTGs, two different Chris Heroes. There's going to be maybe 3 different Rachel Ellerings, Jazz, Pitbull Gary Wolf, Warlord, Eddie Edwards, Tyler Breeze, Fandango, Tatanka. The list is going on. Danhausen's going to be on there. You're going to get all of those. Now, second prize.
Oh, man.
You're going to get a Cassius Ohno, that's Chris Hero, signed. WWE
Signed.
Elite figure. That's like almost $100 value right there just for donating. So the hunt is on GameMarksPod.com/donate today. Head on over to our GoFundMe and donate to St. Jude and make a difference.
And listen, guys, that's not even done. We still have an auction that's going to be happening that we haven't even talked about yet, because we want to wait for December, because we don't want to give everything away now. You still also have the GMP 64 live show that's going to be live streamed on Twitch. I'm doing a live drum stream on Twitch where you could donate to pick songs, and all that money goes to St. Jude's as well. There's going to be Game Marks Mania, where John and I will start one weekend in December, and we'll start at, say, noon, and we're going to say, hey, we're going to stream from noon Eastern to 2 p.m. But there's a little caveat. Every $5 that gets donated is 5 minutes that we stay longer. So keep that in mind, because could very easily be starting at noon and end the stream at midnight. So
Yeah,
that's going to be that's going to be unreal. And obviously during these streams, during every Wednesday stream that I'm doing, obviously from Gameboree, when Gameboree started to when Gameboree ends January 1st, all of the money that is raised during these events, during the live streams, all goes towards St. Jude's and all counts towards this GoFundMe. All of this money that we're raising, I mean, I it's just awesome. I'm incredibly proud of our community, and I say it every time. This is the best thing that John and I do.
That's right. GameMarksPod.com/donate to make a difference today. But let's head on over to some gaming news. What do you say?
Oh, this is a big one. Are you looking to get a better grip on life? How about your video games? Well, VGF Gamers are the largest silicone gaming brand in the USA. They have a variety of different and unique skins for the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One controllers and consoles. Check out their products at VGFgamers.com and use code GameMarks to receive 15% off your order at checkout. That's GAMEMARKS at checkout. VGF Gamers. Better grip, better style. All right, so there's not a bunch of topics that we're going to be breaking down like how we usually do. John had a really good idea. I was already going to say it to him, and he beat me to it. Huge update with the release and announcement of features for WWE 2K22. I mean, man, this game looks pretty.
Not only does it look pretty, this might be the prettiest game that 2K has ever created. I feel like they needed to step up big, and this trailer that we saw last week really delivered, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I'm actually going to pull it up while we're talking about this, just because even though we broke the trailer down into notes, I still just want to watch it while we talk about it, just because it's that cool.
Yeah, so this trailer came out, and I actually kind of pulled the Game Marks and said, like, what do you think? What do you guys think this is gonna Just what do you think? So Ron Scott says, I'm excited with these new updates and the previous mentions of potential roster candidates. It could be the best WWE game we've ever played. I could agree to that. But while on the contrary, Def JC says the roster is going to be like 12 people after all that's been going on, all the firings, which unfortunately we saw even more lately. Virtual Suplex says, pleasantly surprised, Rey Mysterio showcase is going to be so good. Just think of the attires. Now we're thinking of the attires. We're just hoping they're not all going to take up a different roster slot like we've seen in the past.
Yeah, that's something that I've always gone on my soapbox to complain about. I am all for having multiple generations and versions of the same character. I think, especially for features like Showcase Mode, it's cool to have those different years, especially if it's like the year of Triple H that you grew up on or whatever. Like, that makes sense. It's cool to have that. But we don't need every version of Triple H to be a new character slot. I know you're trying to pad the roster, but
no,
it makes character selecting more convoluted because now I got to scroll through 16 versions of the same guy.
It should be like, honestly, like this game, Showdown Legends of Wrestling, where you pick the guy and just pick their attire, which how it used to be. Yeah. But let's break down the list. We'll just break down the list right now, and then we'll go individually. But redesigned gameplay engine, thank God. New controls, which that's another thing. Stunning graphics, completely agree. Immersive presentation, new WWE 2K showcase. My GM, welcome back officially. My faction, my rise, universe mode, and the creation suite. Now, given the visuals of this game, even just from their first mini teaser with Rey Mysterio to this trailer, you could see the upgrade in Rey Mysterio himself, which is awesome. The creation suite and the way that people are so good in the community of creating guys in this game. This is going to be, I just can't wait to see, especially the people we follow on like Twitter and Instagram. I can't wait to see what they come up with.
Well, let's talk about the engine really quick, because in the trailer, you see like short little snippets of matches. I believe the first one that you see in a ring is actually Kofi Kingston versus Jeff Hardy.
Yes.
And go look this up. WWE 2K22 hit list reveals new game features. Click that little cog in the bottom corner, the bottom right hand side, and put the playback speed to 25%. Watch the hair. The hair moves when Kofi throws a strike, when Jeff gets hit with a strike, and then at the end of the little combo of hits, Kofi hits a bulldog on Jeff Hardy, and the hair moves the what is it, like a tied t-shirt around Jeff's pants that flows and moves. Like, to think of what we had to deal with the hair for Bianca Belair in 2K20.
Exactly what I was going to say. How
a rebuilt engine, which is what 2K20 should have been, to see how far it's come, and that maybe it should be an every other year release for WWE. If this is the kind of leaps and bounds that we're going to go, where now the textures of the wrestlers are better, the graphic models of the wrestlers are better, the hair flows and the accessory flows. Obviously, this is all from a trailer, so who knows what's going to happen when you go and try to, create a wrestler, how the hair sits and stuff like that. The collision detection always needed to be a little bit better, but just judging from the short little snippets of the match that we've seen so far, I'm impressed. I really think that this has come a long way from 2K20, and I know that that's not saying a lot, but it's cool.
So here's, I guess, not really an issue, because it's good to have a lot in a game, but they put everything in here. You have Universe, you have 2K Showcase, you have GM, you have My Rise, you have all this stuff in here. So basically everything anyone wants is in this game. I just hope that they didn't cut corners just to fit everything in here. I hope it's all good and working and fun, and that's usually my issue with like an NHL or a Madden, because you have Be a Pro mode, you have online mode, you have all these modes that by the time the next year's game comes out, maybe you only finished one of them. I want to know, can I get through all these? Can I get through all these in a year? Do you have to put a lot of time into them? Are they all drawn out? Are they all...
maybe it's
working.
not going to be a yearly release now. If this is, maybe they're learning from the past mistakes where they rush a game and it might not be great. Another thing that I noticed that kind of caught me off guard, the HUD, the character HUD is back at the bottom.
Yes, it is. And it looks like they condensed it a little bit, made it a little more user-friendly. It's not all over the place with a million different icons that you're like, wait, what does that mean again? It's kind of back to the basics.
This is good. So you see a number of character models between entrances and the gameplay that they show. But I think this is the first year where, I don't know, maybe it's just me or it's the match types that they're picking or how they're positioned in the match. It looks like the camera system may be rebuilt.
It doesn't look very TV-ish anymore. It look like they say immersive
it's not
video.
So pulled out. Yeah, it's not so pulled back how it usually is, where, you used to be able to see like, I don't know, 3/4 of the ring. Now that camera angle is a little closer. Like you really feel a little bit more in the action, which, I mean,
Immersive gameplay.
It's cool. Yeah, that immersive presentation is one of the bullet points that John mentioned before. So I guess in addition to a revised control scheme, the improved engine, I would imagine that this, what if immersive gameplay means that they redid the mini games?
I think it said something about like the pins and the finishers and kicking out of the finishers feeling different, and you could tell right when you pick the game up. So I am how bad I am at that stupid wheel to kick out of a pin. I really hope there's something different.
Yeah. I mean, it looks like they might be true to their word this year. I don't know for better or for worse, but it's definitely different. And I feel like that's definitely the key word that they're trying to go with this year. And I think they may be living up to it. I don't think there's not going to be a lot of reused assets here. I mean, so this is the other thing that kind of caught me off guard, and can't say that I've ever really delved too deep into this, but if the indication of how what I think is the universe mode is going to work, it looks like they are using the actual like studio shots of the wrestlers in the game and not the game renderings for like character selection, which is awesome because listen, man, it's just like another thing that can not go wrong, but I miss those days when it was just like, you want to play as Roman Reigns? Cool. This is a picture of Roman Reigns looking as jacked as possible because that's how jacked he is in real life. Like Big E looks like Big E. There's no question about like, well, the nameplate says it's Roman Reigns, but doesn't look like Roman Reigns.
So one thing I notice is that on that bottom HUD is the skills are gone. So there's no more like hammer throw or kick out, whatever it is, dirty move. That's all out of there. So I'm hoping that that's something that annoyed me because you have to memorize how to do them all and each guy's different. You pick them. I want that gone, and it looks like it is. As far as I could see, it looks like you have 3 stored finisher slots with a special bar and then your health bar. And then, of course, like the body parts that are being worked.
Yeah. So it's like your momentum, stored finishers, I guess. Yeah, the green bar is your health, the body part, and then I gotta tell you, man, never been a big fan of the match rating.
Yeah, I noticed that too, but
It's
get
still
it
there.
because
I understand.
we know that there's going to be a paywall in this game. There always is, but that's your way kind of to have good matches and get your 2K bucks and go buy some things.
Yeah, and they also always do the what's it called? The towers, if they bring back the tower feature.
Right. That's a lot.
The stars. Oh yeah, there's a ton, but there's also still that whole like, it's not just win the match, it's win the match with an X amount of star rating. So it's like an extra little challenge, and I'm sure that they'll do some kind of contest like they did. Did they do that contest again with the AJ Styles? Remember that?
I don't think they did, at least not
the
yet.
$1 million AJ Styles tower.
We're getting more news in January, but let's touch on this controller before we move on because we're spending a lot of time on this here. But overall, I'm going to say a lot of the community is pretty happy about this. Haven't seen too many complaints. It's kind of still wishful thinking because the game isn't even out yet, but it looks like everyone was pretty happy about it. But we're seeing a little different controller scheme here where they changed some things up. Not too much, but some of the things are different. Like run is still L2, which is okay to me because I feel like when you have it on the right side and then you have the face buttons, it's kind of hard to do moves, as we'll see in Showdown Legends of Wrestling. They changed. We now have heavy and light attacks, which is kind of cool. You kind of bringing those back from the graveyard, and then
they changed how you do your finishers, which is
that's going to be a little confusing because it's the right trigger plus the face buttons, and you kind of got to remember. I'm going to assume there's going to be prompts on the screen, but finisher, signature, payback, submission. Yeah,
you see in the trailer that there's prompts for like pin and stuff, and I honestly think those maybe have even gotten a little smaller because they used to be gigantic.
Yeah, I'm okay with this new controller because it's not too much they changed, and I think what they changed from 20 is better.
Yeah, I think that this is going to be. I'm going to be pleasantly surprised. I think a lot of people are going to be pleasantly surprised with how far this has come from 2K20. Now, I will say this: the caveat to this is it's a new engine, which means there's probably going to be settings and lineups and match options that they probably didn't test because it's impossible to test every single thing because there's however many millions of combinations that you can do. But new engine means that there's going to be new bugs, and hopefully none of them are game breaking, and all of the big ones get caught before release, so we don't have a 2K20 situation. But I am optimistic as of now.
Yep, and I think we have a lot to look forward to. I'm just hoping that I hope they built an engine that is sustainable, and we'll see.
Yeah.
But all right, are you ready to head on over right now to the mark out moment of the week?
Let's go.
What's up, Game Marks? Are you trying to look your best while repping your favorite video game podcast duo? We know just the place. Head over to ProWrestlingTees.com/GameMarksPod to pick up your favorite GMP designs, including our various logo tees, Future Endeavor, the classic NES Pro Wrestling style tee, and of course, Mark the F Out. Order today and receive a phone call from us. You never know who will pop in. That's ProWrestlingTees.com/GameMarksPod. Play it forever.
All right, so the mark out moment of the week is a weekly segment where we highlight something that happens cool and awesome, and we want to shine a spotlight on it in our little community. But we said that from now until the end of Gameboree, if you donate to our GoFundMe benefiting St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital for Gameboree 2021, we will put your name in the wheel, and if we draw your name, you will win a little extra prize from us here at the Game Marks Podcast. So, John, I am getting word that you have set up the wheel.
The wheel is set.
We're ready to go.
The wheel's set, and I'm videoing this on my phone, so we got some proof. All the names are in here. I excluded myself and the Major Brothers because they probably don't know what gaming grips are, and that's what we're going to give out today. So, let's spin. We're spinning. Your winner is... Oh, it changed at the last second. Steve Hoker. You have won a pair of gaming grips, so contact us.
Yeah.
You're in the Discord, and we'll send those out to you.
Congratulations, and listen, this is another extra way for you to win a prize. All you have to do is donate to Gameboree 2021. You can check all that out and get all that information at GameMarksPod.com/donate. But John, are you ready? Are you ready to do the deep dive?
I'm ready to Showdown.
Showdown Legends of Wrestling.
Let's go. What's up, Marks? We are proud to announce our newest partnership with NordVPN.
Protect your privacy from prying eyes with military-grade encryption and NordVPN. Are you sick of getting targeted ads after looking up a product or talking about it once? Whether you want to maximize your streaming services, get better protection while working from home, or just want an added layer of security while browsing the internet, NordVPN is an easy and affordable way to protect access to your personal data.
Visit GameMarksPod.com/VPN to get more information and try NordVPN risk-free with their 30-day money-back guarantee.
Protect your information, reduce your digital footprint, and feel safer on the internet, all with NordVPN. All right, so Showdown Legends of Wrestling, released for the Xbox and the PlayStation 2, June 22nd, 2004. Now, this is a weird one. We've seen this happen a couple times with other games. Now, there was a GameCube version announced, but never got released.
That's unfortunate.
Listen, GameCube always gets kind of shafted when it came to wrestling games for some reason. Developed by Acclaim Studios Austin, published by Acclaim Entertainment. Now, other games that are out in 2004, we have Day of Reckoning for the GameCube, Survivor Series for the Game Boy Advance, SmackDown vs. Raw 2004, SmackDown vs. Raw for the PlayStation 2, Fire Pro Wrestling Z for the PlayStation 2, Backyard Wrestling, There Goes the Neighborhood for the PlayStation 2 and the Xbox, and King of Coliseum 2 for the PlayStation 2. Well, I guess that answers my question. The GameCube version probably didn't come out because they didn't want it to compete with Day of Reckoning.
Yeah, but also think of how much they improved in this game from Legends 1 and 2. Probably didn't fit on that mini cartridge, that mini disc.
Oh, that's also possible, but I think maybe there may have been some WWE politicking here.
It's very possible. It's just like like WCW trying to run at the Garden.
Wouldn't be the first time.
Wouldn't be the first time. But let me go back here because I was so excited when this game came out. And I had an Xbox at the time and I wanted it. And I remember ordering it on Walmart.com because it was like $5 cheaper than anywhere else. It was $45, not $50. And the day it was supposed to come, I was also leaving for a vacation. And I was just hoping that it had like 1 or 2 day shipping and it would come to me and I would have a couple hours to play it before I went away. But instead, it was sitting there waiting for me when I got home, and I put so many hours into this game. I don't know why. It's not the greatest game, but it is. It's somewhat impressive, especially if you played the first two, because they upgraded everything.
Oh, yeah. I'll say this. Coming from having no experience with the first two games, this was the one that I actually played once or twice. I'm not going to say that I like you was master of the game and put so many hours and were so excited to play it. I played it once or twice. I think a friend of mine had it. So, coming from how bad the first two were and then playing this one today, I was like, man, it's a very different experience. Like, even when you just load it up, it feels like from the second you see the menu, you're like, wait a second, this is already significantly better than the first two.
Oh, yeah. It just from the menu screen, everything. It's just way better. It's just more user-friendly. It's not so, like, arcadey. And you'll see even when you get to the Wrestler Select screen, how it's just improved.
Now, the big selling point for this game was you could play as the Warrior. The Ultimate Warrior was removed from Here Comes the Pain, and this was a major selling point for Showdown was, hey, did you want to play as the Ultimate Warrior? Well, guess what? Well, we got him. And he's in this game, and we'll talk a little bit about the character models later, but
I think that's pretty big.
Ah, damn. Yeah, that's huge, man. That is huge.
Especially because you don't get him for such a long time after this in a WWE game, and we know kind of the story behind that and what happens kind of soon after that. But there's also some other debuts here that we should talk about.
Well, I was going to say, there's someone else that's very, very near and dear to your heart, very important, also making their Legends debut.
So we get Sting making his debut, and you get, like everyone else in this game, 4 attires. So you get white and black, you get red and black, you get the pink Sting, you get America Sting, and they all look great. But also making their debuts are Kurt Hennig, DDP, Dusty Rhodes, Jake the Snake, Nikita Koloff, Randy Savage, and Ravishing Rick Rude. And the Von Erichs, Mike and David, are actually excluded from this one for the first time.
Yeah, this is a stacked roster. If you are a wrestling fan and you know your wrestling knowledge and your wrestling fandom spans numerous decades, this roster has a little bit of everything, and you can make some crazy ass matchups here. I will say this. We'll get it out of the way because I know it's going to come up later. This is the last video game appearance for now. Who knows what the future will hold? But as of right now, as of recording, this is the last video game appearance of Owen Hart. They captured the attires very well. We'll talk about that. Talk about that a little later. Another cool feature, which I didn't realize until right now, because we typically don't play these, but the tutorial in this game is actually narrated by Bret Hart, which is, I feel like that's something that, one, you would think that they would market, and two, maybe more games should do.
I remember playing through it because even though I had one, and I don't think I owned 2. I think I only owned 1 and then rented 2. I definitely remember just going through it because I thought it was cool that Bret narrated it, and you wanted to see the new changes that they put in this game from the first game. So definitely, definitely more games should do this.
Could you imagine if the AEW game comes out and the tutorial is just like, hey, this is Kenny Omega.
Yeah, right.
Let me tell you how to play this game.
It's possible. Think of what's it called? Elite GM. You have like Taz and Tony Schiavone narrating it. But speaking of Tony Schiavone, him, Bobby the Brain Heenan, and Larry Zbyszko, the classic WCW announce team, are back here for Showdown Legends of Wrestling as the announcers, with Gary Michael Capetta returning as the ring announcer. So this game, just think, 2004, WCW has only been gone for 4 years. It's a very WCW heavy game, whether it's the roster, the presentation, I get it that they can't license like WrestleMania, but you now have a Showdown WrestleMania MSG arena, but you have the WCW announce team announcing it. It's kind of weird, but at the same time,
it's the last WCW game.
Yeah, it's just a very big mishmash, but it makes sense. It works. It's cool.
It goes into what I was saying before. You can really have some fun here and make some matchups that, if you wanted to run, I don't know, Sting versus Snuka at the Garden. Guess what? You could do it now.
Right, and that's not something you would normally see, and we kind of did that with Clash at the Feast also, because we were like, well, I don't know if Sting's ever wrestled at the Garden other than maybe his WWE run, which was short-lived. So let's make it happen here. But let's talk about the matches included, because you now have even more stuff here from the last 2 games. Man. And this was my selling point as in 2004 when I wanted this game, because I remember seeing screenshots and commercials and trailers of the cage match, the ladder match. And like, oh my God, this looks so cool. And it's just a breath of fresh air. It's just something different from the WWE games out at the time. Like, you wanted
it's also
change.
Different from the history of the Legends game.
Yeah. So,
like, this is, we'll ask the question later, is a polished turd still good? But But seriously, think of it that way. Like, it was, the first 2 games were so bad; they were like almost instant future endeavors. This game is significantly better, leaps and bounds better. But the reputation of the games that came before it kind of put a bad taste in your mouth. Like, if you were burned by the first 2 games, are you willing to give the third one a shot? Or are you just going to be like, well, the other 2 sucked. Why? Even if you played it, you may already still just be playing it with that mentality that the game's going to be bad. But the match features alone are a huge turning point.
Yeah, and I think marketing Sting and Ultimate Warrior and Macho Man and Dusty and kind of a new presentation and changing the name up a bit, I think that was their way to kind of differentiate it. But
Showdown Legends of Wrestling hits different, John.
It hits different, yeah. So you have singles match, hardcore match, tag team, which is 2-on-2, 3-on-3, 4-on-4, a 3-way dance, a 4-way dance, 30-minute Iron Man match, a 60-minute Iron Man match, 2 out of 3 falls, a tournament, which you could do a 1-on-1 up to 16 players, a tag team tournament with 8 teams, a battle royal, a cage match, a ladder match, and a table match. So they really stacked the roster here. But you know what we need to talk about? The little animations on the bottom left of the screen on every loading screen.
Oh, man, I love that. That's so... we loaded up the game. That's like the first thing I remembered. I was like, wait, I remember this.
How cool they were. They're just little... like silhouette animations of like a wrestling move repeated, so it's like a one-handed choke slam just over and over again, or a body slam, or a suplex, a DDT, and when it goes away,
clean.
Yeah, when it goes away, that's when you know to press X and continue.
I love it so much. Looks so good. They're so... I mean, they're a little pixely now when you look back.
Yeah, that's
when
right.
you look back at them, but the motion of it, very fluid, very clean, and they're actually like the animations that you will see in the game. A little more sped up because they're supposed to run a couple times while the match is loading, but it's cool.
Yeah, so you also have Showdown Challenge, and this is where you are able to unlock classic matches. I'll get into that in a second. So you go through kind of the generations here, the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s. And like we said, this game is very 90s heavy, very WCW heavy. And your objective is to kind of claim the title from each decade. And of course, they're not the real belts. They kind of resemble the real belts. Start to finish, this Showdown Challenge could be complete if you play for like 90 minutes straight, which is not very long, but at least you get to unlock some cool matches. So like you said before, you could have like so-and-so or so-and-so at the Garden. Whereas instead, maybe you unlock Hogan and Andre at the Garden, which is not as much fun because why can't you just do that match to begin with?
Yeah, I mean...
You know, like Kaufman versus Jerry Lawler you could unlock, but you could also just do that match.
Yeah, I feel like that's a problem with a lot of these kinds of games where like... I was gonna compare it to All Stars and like that system where it's just like you can make the matchups by yourself, but it's also how you unlock people as well in All Stars where like you're gonna do Sheamus versus Savage or whatever that lineup was, or Savage versus Punk. But that's the way that you unlock Randy Savage.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a little weak in my opinion.
Yeah,
but
it definitely could have been more flushed out, I guess.
But the game itself, like playing the game, it's very, very fluid, I guess, the way that like moves work. And you'll hear Max SmashMaster in our bonus Clash at the Feast talk about how most of them are still the animations from like Hardcore Revolution and Warzone. So technically, most of these animations are still from Matt and Jeff Hardy, which is crazy to think in 2004 that they're already WWE legends at this point pretty much, and they're now still having their motion capture in this game. But the way you even like chain wrestle or go from one move to another or reversals or triple reversals, it's so fluid and it looks so nice and realistic, and you could tell that like some of the animations are redone and they look really good. Now,
the thing that stood out for me, and I guess this is the word of the day today, because this grapple system, along with the chain grappling system, is something that seems more fleshed out compared to the previous games. Because when you really only could transition from like a suplex into a chin lock, or a suplex into a pin, or a snapmare into like I don't know, a dragon sleeper was the one that we saw a lot. But like this let you chain moves and reversals into submissions and pins, which was I felt like it was something that was more built upon. The matches felt like a sequence that you would see in an actual match, if that makes sense. Like that was probably the most realistic presentation of the entire game. Is that you would go to, hook someone with a standing switch, and now, you would go to like hit a German, but then all of a sudden they would reverse the German suplex and hit you with their own move. But then when they transitioned into the ground hold, you had another opportunity to reverse the ground hold. Like it gave you more fighting opportunities, and it wasn't so much where someone could just kind of like bulldoze you.
It also made the matches longer. Way longer.
Yes.
So you're not just pinning a guy now. It takes like 20 minutes to even get your special. And you can't, what bothers me is like in a WWE game, let's say.
Long matches bother you.
No, if you like snapmare someone when their health is down and you pin them, you're not going to win. In this game, if your health is drained and you get stomped on, you're losing.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a little weird, but.
Yeah. But all right, let's talk a little bit about this creative suite because
are you even calling it a suite?
No, it's not. It's bare bones. It's I tried to surprise our guest this week. I tried to make Max SmashMaster so that he could play as himself in his matches. But this is like, okay, so if you unlock every character, you have all their outfits. You then have the opportunity to like mix and match the attires. Now, this roster is big. There's a lot of wrestlers on here. So you've got some nice combinations, but there's maybe 5 generic style outfits that you can pick from for each section. So like you get like generic shirt or generic jacket or generic gloves. But it's like they picked one style and they just gave you multiple colors. So it's like, you want a jacket? Cool. The only generic jacket that we have is like a Letterman's jacket. And you can pick that Letterman's jacket in pink or blue or red or green. But that's it. Everything else is someone else's jacket. And it was just like, you can't really like put your own feel.
Hard to make yourself.
Yeah, like your guy just feels like a ripoff of someone else. Like you just like have to like kind of force yourself like, oh, I'm the other Funk brother or something. Like you have to like pigeonhole yourself into something else. You're like, oh, I'm Platinum Dallas Page or something.
Platinum Dallas Page. That's a new one. I always thought like I was 16 at the time, probably 15, 16 when this game came out. And like you want to make yourself in these games. Obviously, I was not wrestling at the time, so you just want to look cool. And I felt like the game was very 80s with all the creations that you made. And like I didn't want to look like an 80s wrestler with like a mullet.
Yeah,
but
that's
one thing that was cool to make. And they actually had the parts for, because he's, there's not many parts here, was Stone Cold. Everyone made Steve Austin back then for this game. Because it's easy. It's
the most minimal amount of parts. You don't have to have a lot of parts of stuff.
But the vest was there. They had the vest.
The vest was there.
So you have to get creative here. But all right, before we jump into this roster, I think we've talked about him enough. I think we should head into our little chat with our friend Max SmashMaster here.
I'm ready. Let's hope he doesn't bury us today.
Mark's podcast. We said he was here. We have with us New England legend Max SmashMaster. Welcome to the Game Marks podcast. This is
so disgusting.
This is a full circle moment.
I'm saying that, and it's like nobody's a New England legend.
There's a few.
According to Smart Marks, there are.
John Cena.
You're the Bobby.
John Cena is the only New England legend.
The Bobby Orr of video game collecting.
I don't watch those fake sports.
Wow, okay. All right, welcome to the Game Marks podcast. Full circle moment here, because it was only about 2 years ago where you were an enemy, I guess, of the podcast. We weren't too happy, but look at us. One happy family. We met officially finally at FWF 1 last year. We got FWF 2 this week coming up.
Yeah, I can't wait to see you guys again.
I never thought you would say that.
Happens, and we can.
I'll say full disclosure. First time I met you, the face paint and all that. It's a lot, but
Yeah, the morbid obesity will get you. Yeah.
broke the ice. Started talking about video games. Smart Mark told me to muster up the courage to start a conversation, and here we are. Now you're on the podcast.
That's the thing is like, yeah, I get it. I'm an asshole, but video games, like wrestling video games, one of my biggest passions. Love it. So when I heard there was a wrestling video game podcast coming, I was like, fuck yes, in day one, in.
And then it was us.
And then it was you
then
guys.
the bell
I was
rang.
like, these guys.
Well, we've come a long way, and
No, of course you have. Of course you have. But you wouldn't have come this far if it wasn't for me.
That's true.
know?
But let's get the dumb questions that everybody asks out of the way. What's your favorite wrestling video game? What's your favorite console? Give us the usuals.
Yeah, so all right. Wrestling video game, that's tough. I think the go-to answer for me is gonna be No Mercy or just any of the Aki games. Love them. Just completely ingrained in me. I could pick it up right now, play on expert, have no issues. Just so much. It means so much to me nostalgia-wise. But if I wanted to go a bit more obscure, and it wouldn't even be that obscure. It'd just be like a different, like, the reason I want to come on this week is I have such an affinity for the Legends of Wrestling games, because I thought they were cool as hell, and I got to play as Bret Hart, and I love wrestling history, and that's all I ever like. You guys, I'm sure, played like sports games and things like that. There's nothing in my life like wrestling. Like it's either it's wrestling or it's nothing. So that's all I wanted to do is watch and play and do all that shit. And my favorite console. That's
a tough one because it's so generational.
Yeah, I'll just give you this. I'll give you my console, like my generation of consoles what I did. So my brother had like a Nintendo, but those things suck so bad that they would just die like all the time, and we could blow into the system itself. You like squish the cartridge to the side to try to get it to work. Like it fucking sucked. So my first real one that I had that worked was Sega Genesis. And I know some people are like, I'm Super Nintendo.
Clash loves
I'm the Sega guy here.
I was Sega Genesis, and I was like, this thing is sweet. So I had Sega Genesis, then I went to PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, and then I started getting my own job. So I bought an Xbox, and I bought a GameCube. Oh, and I thought that WrestleMania 18 was developed by Aki. I just didn't realize that they would ever change. So when WrestleMania 18 was coming, I was like, this is an Aki game. Like, this is the next generation. This is No Mercy, but it's a WrestleMania game. And then that game stunk.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. It did have...
And from then on out, I've just had every system.
It did have some of the same, like, feel to it. I think it was more prevalent when you got to, like, Day of Reckoning, but I definitely felt like the old school
WrestleMania
style
19
of it.
started to have it. I love WrestleMania 19.
So
I
good.
think the campaign is so stupid.
Just murdering people,
but
throwing
I
them off
absolutely
buildings.
played it. But the gameplay was so fun, and it definitely brought it back. Now, nothing can touch it. Day of Reckoning 1 and 2, sweet games. Fucking awesome. I love it. I love that they tried.
That's all we ask, is that they try.
Now,
Yeah.
do you remember what your first wrestling video game that you ever played was? Was it something on Sega? Was it like a Royal Rumble on Sega?
Yeah, I played all three of those. I never owned them, but we would rent them. We rented them so much we practically owned them.
I feel like that's a big, at least for like people around our age group, like that's a big exposure for people who may not have been watching wrestling at the time. Like that was a good like entry point into like, you have the game, it looks cool on the shelf, you rent it, you take it home, and you're like, holy crap, I love this.
Yeah. So, I'm trying to think. It was definitely Rumble. Royal Rumble was the first. And I played that, and then Raw came out, and we played that. And then I played Super WrestleMania just because I went to to the store and I was like, whoa, this one has Ultimate Warrior, and that game is like so bad compared to Rumble and Raw, and those games aren't good, but it just was like a definite step down. And I didn't understand why or how. And then I got a Game Pro. Like later on, maybe around 1996, early 97, I got a Game Pro, and it had Warzone, and it was like part, polygonal rock, giving Austin a rock bottom, and I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, I've been playing Power Move Pro Wrestling. Like, I thought Power Move Pro Wrestling was the best.
No.
But look at this.
No.
But to me, it was like, I knew nothing. It was the only 3D wrestling game that I
and
had.
they'll tell you a million times that it's the only 3D wrestling game.
No, they lied.
That's a Ukes game, so that evolved into SmackDown.
Yeah, you could even see kind of the No Mercy feel, too.
It's quite an evolution.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but it's just like, once Warzone was coming, I was crazy about it. So I played Warzone. And then Top Shelf Troy. I've known Top Shelf Troy since I was 6 and he was 3.
I'm sorry.
You should be. Yeah, he's something. But he had a Nintendo 64. So I remember I had Warzone. I think for a little bit I had Warzone, and then I went over his house after that Christmas, and he had WCW versus NWO. And that's when I got introduced to that. And man, my life is not, it hasn't been the same since.
See, and the big difference between you and Top Shelf Troy Nelson is that we asked you to come on the podcast, and you're like, hell yes, I can't wait. I asked Troy to do a bonus episode with me playing through Fire Pro. Well, any Fire Pro game of his choosing, and his response was, I'm too busy for that, George.
I'm
like,
sorry.
Wow, all right.
I'm sorry. When did he say this?
This was like maybe a year or two ago.
Okay.
It's pre-pandemic, so he's still working in like the bars and working at the brewery and
Don't you fucking defend him.
Oh no,
He's a lazy
he's way
bitch.
busier then than he is now.
He's a lazy bitch. I have 2 kids. I have a full-time job, 50 hours a week, and I own a business, a pro wrestling school.
Well,
And he doesn't have
let's
any
talk
of
about
that.
that.
So
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about
Now I'm
New
mad. You made
England
me
Pro
mad.
Wrestling Academy.
what about it?
I mean, well, so okay. I'm going to preface that question with another question before we start talking about that. Your persona, your wrestling character, Max SmashMaster, the face paint, the crazy ass jacket, the insane helmet mask. I don't know how you
helmet.
qualify
it's
that.
Orc. I think an orc helmet.
How do you draw any inspiration from all the various forms of face paint that you've had over your career and stuff like that? Is there any inspiration from video games? Like, did you ever pull from that?
So currently, like, the look for Max SmashMaster right now, and I'm going to give like a brief like elevator pitch of what Max SmashMaster is Max SmashMaster is he's a 1980s, early 90s, monster heel wrestler who accidentally got transported to this time and era. So like, through a space-time continuum, I ended up here, but I'm just making town, so I don't even realize it's 2021. I still think it's 1991. So I still have that mentality to look and feel like I'm from then. So my older character is a bit more subdued, like less gimmicks on the pants. Think of Road Warriors. When they just had Road Warriors on their pants, and then a little bit more, and the face paint kind of evolved, and then they went to WrestleMania, or I'm sorry, LOD 2000, and that's kind of where I'm at right now, like mentality wise. I'm in the 90s. So I have like 3 people that I'm pulling from. I have Vader is a big one.
Couldn't tell.
And then yeah. And then I have I don't know if you guys play Apex Legends at all, but
Yep.
there's a character in there, Caustic.
Yep.
Caustic has like kind of like the fur and like the helmet, and obviously I made it my own, and like the tubes around. And then the last one is Predator. So if I do up the jacket fully, I can make it smoke almost like Predator when he takes out like his, I don't know if you've seen the movie Predator, but he takes out like the plugs on his mask and it like psst, and it sprays. So if I do it up fully, I can make it spray like that. It's just a pain in the ass to get it right. And it's it's keyboard cleaner, so it tastes like shit when you spray it into the air. So like everyone's like, ugh, what the fuck? Like it's so bitter, you know? So yeah, that's basically it. So yeah, I draw all inspiration from that stuff. I'm like a massive video game dork. I listen to video game podcasts every day. I have, my Xbox Series X, and I know I'm getting a PS5 for Christmas from my wife, but I'm not going to say that to you, or else she'll probably send it back. But like like
that's why most people are getting Xboxes, because they couldn't get the PlayStations.
Well, I accidentally got an Xbox last year, but I wanted an Xbox because that's where like my ecosystem of friends play. So I'm happy that I have it. But yeah, I'm going to get a PS5 this year so I can play God of War, which is like God of War 2018 was my favorite game of all time.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, what a fucking game that is. I got to play God of War Ragnarok, and I have a Switch over there, but I rarely touch the Switch. It's just, it's the Switch. So I played Mario, I played Zelda, which is my second favorite game of all time, Breath of the Wild. But yeah, I don't know. I could talk all fucking day about video games.
Well, that you're in the right place. But all right, so now let's go back to New England Pro Wrestling Academy. Now.
Oh yeah, I completely missed that.
So obviously, some big names have come out of New England Pro Wrestling Academy, and it's crazy to think that. At least for me, because like I said, you'll hear me say it in Clash with the Feast on YouTube. I am not a wrestler. I know, huge surprise to everybody. So it's crazy to think that the guy who was responsible for bringing us and training some of the most well-known names in wrestling now is not only a huge video game nerd, has been in the same or will be in the same room as me and John 2 times, and is just sitting here bullshitting with us about, giving us a little peek behind the curtain on his love of video games and the elevator pitch of Max SmashMaster. So how did you get from, I guess, performing to what makes someone want to open a school? Like what switches have to click in order to make that transition? Because there's plenty of wrestlers who've just not gone that route.
Sure. And I'm definitely going to preface this because I did not train Sasha Banks, or Donovan Dijak. I was there, like I was around the school, but the school is owned by someone else when they were trained, and I want to make sure that that doesn't get misconstrued. I appreciate you saying all the nice things about me, but we are,
All right, we take them back.
Perfect. So we are obviously training new students and things like that, and some students who are really getting a little bit of notoriety, and students who are coming up. But we've only owned the school since June of 2020. So that's, everything from then until now has been me and my partner in the business, Chase Del Monte, who owns Chaotic Wrestling. But he came up with all those guys too. So I could name drop a million of them right now, but it's like Tommaso Ciampa, Ivar, who we know as Handsome, Brian Malonis from ROH was there.
I love that guy.
Kofi Kingston, Sasha Banks, fucking Flip Gordon, who was over a few years ago.
Damn.
Steph, real Steph. Donovan Dijak. I keep going.
Carmelo Hayes too, right?
Biff Busick, Carmelo Hayes. Yeah. So it's just like there's. I was around, but I'm never going to say that I trained those people. We do hold the legacy that we are the owners of the name Killer Kowalski's Pro Wrestling School. or School of Pro Wrestling. So technically the lineage comes from Killer Kowalski all the way to us. So we have a big picture on the wall of, Triple H saying to Walter, blah, 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 like that kind of stuff. But our building is, where a lot of things have happened. Like when WWE would come around, they would do tryouts at our building. So we have like a big legacy that we must uphold. There's a funny picture. We don't display it, but it's like in a drawer. It's the old trainers standing there with Rock and Goldberg because their SummerSlam match was in Boston and they needed a ring to figure it out. And so like there's some like history with our building that we have to uphold. So hopefully we can train some awesome wrestlers who then can keep doing that. Obviously Anthony Green came from us as well. So he's like the next real, like him and Carmelo Hayes are like that next crew, next batch that is really going to take over the world. And then hopefully we have some more. We have, Becca, who is getting out there and she's awesome. I could keep going, but yeah, it's difficult to own a business, run a business, and run it like a business, because the wrestling business is usually just like a carny, crazy place. So we're doing a good job with trying to run it like a business and update it. And we put in a full gym, which was a big investment, but it's something that we absolutely need, for wrestlers. Why not give them a one-stop shop to, okay, I want to get in shape and I want to learn how to wrestle. That's 2 payments. Why not just consolidate it into 1 payment and I go to one place and then I'm surrounded by people who also love wrestling. One of my big kind of grand ideas is to have a tanning booth in there, and then you don't need any other subscriptions or anything, right? You got a tanning booth, you got a gym, and you got 2 rings to work out in. So, yeah, we're always going forward, and we want to make it the best, and hopefully we can then produce more great wrestlers who are trained properly.
Love it. Love it. And right now, I believe over on YouTube on Cap TV, it's you guys versus us guys.
Yeah, you guys are so cheap, though. All you do is cheat.
I honestly haven't watched it, so.
Kip,
great sell for the product.
I'm screaming into my mic now, so you might get a little blown out here and there. But Kip literally tried to kill one of my students.
Oh, well, yeah, he's a dickhead. We know this. It's very known on the pod how we feel about Kip.
She was up top. He swept her leg, and she fell on her head.
That I did see.
So brutally. And, yeah.
Well,
I mainly don't like Kip because I like CPA so much.
I just don't like Kip because he's Kip. But that's besides the point. Anyway, back to video games. I'm going to bring something up here. It's going to get awkward.
Oh.
You were in a video game.
Yeah, I was in a video game.
And then
fucking crazy.
And then you weren't.
They fucked me, man.
What is that just like a roller coaster of yes and then fuck and...
Well, hold on.
I didn't even know.
You didn't even know.
I want to start at the beginning.
Okay.
Like I was like, do they have to be like, hey, can we use your likeness, or like how does that whole process work?
Dude, this is wild. This is wild. So there was another video game, and you can look it up, and we put out like a Kickstarter for Chikara. It was called Rudo Resurrection, and it was actually a side-scrolling beat-em-up using the Chikara characters. It looked awesome. Like the artwork was fantastic. It was like a real stylized 2D or 2.5D.
This is nice.
Like, it looked fucking awesome. It looks great, right? And I was supposed to be a boss in that. Like, so you'd go through and you'd fight my fat ass like the Blob in fucking in X-Men, the arcade game. You know what I mean? So, great. Give me that. And the arcade game's like one of my favorite arcade games of all time. Let's go.
Do you have the arcade one up?
Didn't get funded. I don't, because it is very expensive.
True.
But I have thought about it. So that didn't get funded. I was sad about that. But then they showed off Chikara Action Arcade Wrestling. And in the first trailer, I was like prominently featured in the first trailer for it.
Yeah, I think I remember.
And it just came up on my thing. It was like 5 years ago or 6 years ago. I don't know, whatever it was. But it was like, oh shit, I'm gonna be in a video game. This is great. the game got funded, which is a weird story because it got funded and then like Speaking Out happened and they just like completely disregarded that they were affiliated with Chikara. But it's like, yo, there was a lot of good people who were who were not assholes that were in your game. I'm sure I could reach out to the guy right now and be like, hey, can you put me in the game and you can use my likeness and I'd be in it, just because he was super cool and he really liked and like wanted to use me. So when we met, but we had to sign some sort of like agreement, and we were all brought into a room and we all signed an agreement, and technically I don't own Max SmashMaster. I guess I could copyright it, but it definitely IP would come back to Mike Quackenbush, and I don't want to have to deal with any legal. I don't think he would fuck with me or anything like that. But I don't feel like dealing with anything like that, so I just go on using it because why not? And so I'm not sure what would happen if I did that. They're not going to make any goddamn money off that game. I know that they had to sell at least 10,000 copies to be able to like break even on the Kickstarter or like any of it. So I don't know what they've sold. It's kind of a passion project, but we raised like 25 grand to get this game made, and then they kind of screwed everyone over and just changed, like, oh, we're just going to take away the Chikara name from it, when they could have just left it and nobody would have said anything about it. But yeah, I was supposed to be in a video game, and I was, and I didn't realize because I had stopped wrestling. I had a heart condition, which forced me to stop wrestling. Thankfully, I'm cleared to wrestle now. But it was scary for a little bit, so I stopped wrestling, and then the game continued to progress, and I just assumed that they had just taken me out because I wasn't part of the active roster anymore, until George told me I was like the final unlock, which is even better. Like you either want to be the first unlock or the last unlock, and like the last unlock is like having getting the hoe in WWF.
Her name is Mary Jane. Okay,
you are. He's not going to get that reference.
Someone will.
I drafted the hoe in our No Mercy Federation, and I made her one character model, and I named her Mary Jane.
Hell of a run.
And she came out with the Godfather, because Godfather Mary Jane made sense. But we covered Chikara Action Arcade Wrestling on the podcast, and when we covered it, we run through the entire roster because there was an exploit that I found on my own that you can, if you just keep tapping the escape button, it just repeats the experience you get.
Really?
So if you keep tapping escape, the experience bar keeps filling up and keeps filling up. And then every like couple of levels, it'll pop up like, oh, you unlock so-and-so, you unlock so-and-so. So from like 65 to 70, nothing pops up. And I was like, okay, I guess that's it. I guess we hit the limit. I think you were level 80.
Jesus Christ, who's going to play that long?
And at
George.
80, it pops up and it's just like you unlock. Because I was just like, oh, screw it. I'll just take it to 100 because,
why not?
Sometimes when you take it to 100, games cap out at 99. Sometimes games cap out at 100. Sometimes weird things happen when you has to like register triple digits. So I was like, screw it. I'll take it that far. And then all of a sudden, it's like, you've unlocked Max SmashMaster. I was like, wait, there's another guy? And at that point...
And he hates our podcast?
I don't hate your podcast. I did.
Because I was convinced, because I figured that you had known, and I was like, this is why he hates us, John. I sent the picture. I was like, because he's in the game, but he's literally the last possible person to unlock. And he's 10 levels ahead of the last person.
What was it? 10 levels? Like, or was it...
So like the last unlock happens at, not the last unlock because you're the last unlock, but between 70. If there are 20 unlocks, between 19 and 20 is 10 experience levels or 8 experience levels. So like, you unlock so and so at level 75, and then to get to you, it's either like 83 or 85 or something. Like it's some insanely high number. And I mean, I sent you the picture. The character model looks just like you.
Yeah.
Like if you Google Max SmashMaster, that's the gear.
I've seen. Yeah. Yeah, so I saw that character model. I saw it early on. I was trying to remember because I did see it, and then I had to stop wrestling because that gear, the orange gear, is from 2017. So yeah, oh man,
Okay.
that it just bums me out thinking about it because like if they had just left it, then I could buy it, own it, and show it off to everyone at like the Christmas
I think
party.
you need to
or
send the guys at AEW a message.
I do. I'll send them like a crying video like Drake Maverick probably put out.
Just send them the picture that I sent you.
Too soon.
Send them the picture that I sent you and be like, this guy needs to be back in the game.
Yeah, I think I might. Because then I could buy it on my Xbox and I could do the cheat that you showed me so I don't have to play it, and then I could have me in a game, for people to purchase. That would be the best.
And obviously, there's a whole gigantic creative suite with AEW, so you can go in there and you could create Max SmashMaster, but why would you create it when it's already in the game?
Right, that's the different thing. It's like I've created
huge
myself
difference.
100,000 times. I've created full rosters of made-up wrestlers. But being in the game is just... I was meant to be there, right? Like someone put me there. Someone put in the effort to take pictures of me and scan me and do all that. Well, not really scan me. They just took pictures. But yeah, man, that fucking bums me out now.
And now I'm very curious to know if there's
A Drake Maverick video because, yes, 45 minutes ago it was posted. Not kidding.
I nailed that.
God. Well, no, I was going to say, I wonder if there's... God damn, John. I was going to say, I wonder if there's like a working build somewhere of the Rudo Resurrection game that like got leaked because obviously the game didn't get back. Didn't get
It
the
was
green light,
very early. It was very early. I
this
remember
video
going up
looks
to them and be like,
awesome.
I was like, I know you have a playable version. And they're like, yeah, we do, but it's like super early. Like we only have like one level done and this and that. I was like, can I play it? And they're like, no, because we used to do like almost like a fan access during King of Trios weekend. And it was called like the Fan Conclave. And it was like, I want to play this game. And they're like, no, like, there's a ton of people here. And then if we start letting you play, then everyone's going to want to play. And I was like, you assholes. But yeah, so it was close to, getting funded, but the Action Arcade actually got funded.
Yeah.
All right.
Damn. Well, now you've got your homework. You didn't think you were going to come on this podcast and get some
I have
homework,
one of the
but
10
now
million things I have to do anyways. Right?
send an email really quick to the guys over at Action Arcade Wrestling and just... Maybe,
Yeah,
you
I
know
know
what?
you have the character model. Please put me back in the game.
Here's your pitch. Ready? Put the character model in that was originally in Chikara, but then get your new model with your new gear and the mask.
Yeah,
and
but that's effort, right?
But those guys at that team, they pump out character models like it's nobody's business.
Oh, do they?
Yeah. All right. Well, listen.
Whatever.
We all got some homework. It looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
But all right, I think we kept you up past your bedtime. I'm tired. I'm yawning here, but not because you're boring. It's because I'm tired. Anything else you wanna?
We could keep going. We could keep going.
Anything else you wanna tell us? Let everybody know before we send you packing.
No, I could probably just rattle off a few. What's the word I'm looking for? Plugs.
Yeah, give us all your plug
That's
skis.
what it is. All right. If you want to follow me on any social media, it's at Max SmashMaster. That's one word, at Max SmashMaster. I don't have an Instagram for it because I don't normally take pictures. I barely put them on my personal one. And if you find my personal one, don't add it because I'm not going to add you. And if you find my personal Facebook, don't add it because I'm not going to add you unless I know you. But if you want to follow me, best place to do it is Twitter, which is the cesspool of earth. And if you want to learn how to be a professional wrestler and you're not in the New York area, you're closer to the New England area, and you want to go to the best pro wrestling school with the largest lineage, you can find out all the information. NEProWrestling.com. That's the letters NE like New England, ProWrestling.com. Once again, NEProWrestling.com. That'll take you to New England Pro Wrestling Academy's website, which has all the information for signing up, contacting, pricing packages. Also, you can follow any New England Pro Wrestling Academy social media, NEProWrestling.com or NE Pro Wrestling. And that's about it.
And then, hey, we'll see you in a couple days at FWF Live too. You're taking on Stang, Slade, and good friend of the podcast, Philip Cardigan.
I've been trying to get Slade taken out of this match for.
I see that. Yeah, I've been seeing the tweets.
Like I taunt him, and then I go behind his back, and I'm like, "Yo, Matt, I'll give you $100 cash. Take him out of the match."
It's
just like put him in there with like a, I don't know, like a stray dog or something. I don't know. Just not me. Okay.
I was gonna say, I'm gonna end up biting the bullet on this one. It's gonna be like, you know what, George?
Yes. Why do we do George versus Slade? That would make you Mikey Whipwreck level babyface, right? If Slade just fucking violates your body.
Oh God.
Right. It'd be good.
All right. With that said. All right. Thanks for coming on the Game Marks podcast. We love you. We'll see you next week, and take care. What a guy.
Man. Listen, I think it's safe to say that any beef that we had was squashed. We figured out why he didn't like us in the beginning, and you know what? And that was just growing pains. He
was helping us. He helped us.
Exactly. It was two guys who'd never done a podcast before, and I think we've come leaps and bounds in 3 years of doing this podcast. But
he was one of those guys that FWF1, like, we just like, hey, how's it going? Hey, how's it going? And then like you had to break the ice, like, do you still hate my podcast? Oh no, man, I don't hate it. That was it.
I mentioned it when we were just talking to him. The first thing that he ever said to me was, "I'm sorry, I'm such a massive asshole." And I was just like, "Okay, well, we're cool then."
At least you know it.
At least he apologized. He's like, "I didn't mean it. I just like busting balls and giving people a hard time." I'm like, "Okay, you're gonna fit right in with us."
Oh yeah. But all right, it's time to get into this large roster here. And
listen, you did a lot of heavy lifting talking about the game modes and taking us through the Showdown challenge. I would be honored to take this off your plate today.
Oh, I was going to say I'll do it, but okay, if you want to take it, I'll take the arenas after. All
right, sounds good. So your roster for Showdown Legends of Wrestling is Ravishing Rick Rude, The American Dream Dusty Rhodes, Abdullah the Butcher, Andre the Giant, Andy Kaufman, Bam Bam Bigelow, Baron Von Raschke, Big John Studd, Bob Backlund, Bobby the Brain Heenan, Bret Hitman Hart, Brian Pillman, British Bulldog, Bruno Sammartino, Captain Lou Albano, Cowboy Bob Orton, Kurt Hennig, Diamond Dallas Page, Don Morocco, Dory Funk Jr., Dr. Death, Steve Williams, Dynamite Kid, Eddie Guerrero, Fritz Von Erich, George the Animal Steel, Greg the Hammer Valentine, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Harley Race, Hot Stuff, Eddie Gilbert, Hulk Hogan, Iron Sheik, Ivan Koloff, Ivan Putski, Jake the Snake Roberts, Jerry the King Lawler, Jimmy Superfly Snuka, Kerry Von Erich, Kevin Von Erich, Killer Kowalski, King Kong Bundy, Coco Beware, Mil Moskris, Mr. Fuji, Mr. USA Tony Atlas, Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, The Nasty Boys, Brian Knobs and Jerry Sags, Nikita Koloff, Nikita Volkov, Nikolai Volkov, One Man Gang, Owen Hart, Randy Macho Man Savage, Rick Martel, Rick Steiner, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, Ricky Morton, The Road Warriors, Animal and Hawk, Robert Gibson, Rocky Johnson, Rowdy Roddy Piper, Sabu, Scott Steiner, Sid Vicious, Sting, Superstar Billy Graham, Ted DiBiase, Terry Funk, The Grand Wizard, The Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart, The Sheik, Tito Santana, and The Ultimate Warrior.
Damn. Okay. That's stacked.
Some hell of a lineups here. I mean, unreal.
Now let's keep going here because your arenas, we have some licensed arenas finally, even though you don't have the licensed, WrestleMania logos. We have Madison Square Garden, Pontiac Silverdome, Cobo Arena in Detroit, the Omni in Atlanta, Georgia, Cow Palace in San Francisco, the Spectrum in Philly, Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto, Boston Gardens in, well, guess where? Boston. The Tokyo Dome, Greensboro Coliseum in North Carolina, the Sky Dome in Toronto, Mid-South Coliseum in Memphis, Texas Stadium in, well, Texas, LA Sports Arena, Wembley Stadium in London, Moscow, and then you have Dory Funk's Gym in Ocala, Florida, and Legends Coliseum in Austin, Texas. I think they really captured the likenesses here of most of these arenas. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was it's definitely a sight to be seen to actually, if you're familiar with any of the arenas, you've been there in real life, they captured them pretty well. And the likeness is really good. The entrance for how they've been set up in the past is really very similar. We'll talk a little bit more about the actual presentation of the arena a little later, but to touch on something that you talked about before, it's very nice to have. Is this not the first, but one of the first appearances of licensed arenas? That's not like the Tokyo Dome.
There were licensed arenas in Thunder, I believe, because you could play at Nassau Coliseum.
Oh yeah. That's true.
But no, it's one of the the more drawn out ones. Yeah.
Nowadays, it's pretty common.
Yeah, and they're not perfect. They're not like the NHL arenas where you see like it's literally Madison Square Garden, but it's there. You could tell, and they got the old school WrestleMania pads, but it just says Showdown, which is kind of corny, but you get it. You can't license that kind of stuff. And I think the kill shot, like we said in the last one, was Legends of WrestleMania, the game coming out, and they kind of put the kibosh on all these with the licensing.
Yeah, I love it and I hate it because at the same time, seeing Showdown in that WrestleMania style font, I mean, look at Pro Wrestling Tees. It's like so many people have like knockoff WrestleMania logos and stuff, and like knockoff of other brands. Like this just is like, yeah, okay, I get it. So many people do this now. It's just like, yeah, I accept this. This is just like common practice nowadays, where like people do their own. What's the word that Broski uses? It's not a ripoff. It's you pay homage.
Yeah.
Tribute.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But let's talk about this cover, man, because I think love or hate this game, this cover is a banger.
Yeah, and they made it look different from the first game. Like we said, this made it stand out a little more. And it shows Legends.
Who would have guessed that the largest superstar featured twice on the front cover would be none other than Hulk Hogan? I never would have thought that. Who couldn't have guessed it?
Couldn't have guessed it. But, I mean, how many times have we seen these people all on the same cover? And now we got them all together again. It's Macho Man, it's Andre, it's Warrior, Sting, Jake the Snake Roberts. So the difference is you're not getting real pictures here from Legends and Legends 2. You're getting now these kind of illustrated painting, like, I guess, graphics of them.
Yeah,
and
like artistic renders.
They look great. They're not, like they spend a lot of money on these, it looks like, and it's worth it. But you do have the video game version of Hogan underneath, and even the characters themselves look better from the first two games. Not perfect. They're not really realistic, but they're there. And I think, so this is something I think, and I don't know if it's true. I don't know how you would feel about it, but the SmackDown game is picking up a lot of steam. SmackDown's over. Here Comes the Pain is the end of it, and now you have SmackDown vs. Raw starting. Showdown, SmackDown, wrestling. Do you think they named it Showdown on purpose to kind of bring in like, oh, this is that game series my son likes. Let me buy him this game. Is that just like a big reach?
I don't know if it's necessarily a reach. I don't know if I'll say this. I'll chalk it up to a happy accident. They probably went,
that's fair.
If this game doesn't because I'm also thinking like how this game fits into the series. This is, I guess, make or break for this game. If it's great, it's awesome. And maybe they can make another one. If it's not, this is really like the final showdown for their roster of games. So it could be a name like that. It could just be that because they got so many big name wrestlers that like they needed a big time name and they just named it Showdown because it's like, this is like the big showdown of all these wrestlers in these majorly famous arenas. And then later on they were like, oh wow, Showdown, SmackDown.
You know what?
Happy accident.
They could also know that this was the last one, and it's the final showdown.
Yeah.
Well, let's go to the back now because you have your legends up top that are all too familiar. The Road Warriors, which we're going to be covering them again soon here. Eddie Guerrero, DDP, Bret Hart, Roddy Piper, Dusty, Scott Steiner. But then you have the Showdown with Hulk Hogan pointing at Andre in that beautiful Showdown arena. Then you have Ultimate Warrior and Sting staring off. You have that big elbow drop from Macho Man coming down on Jake the Snake. A nice moonsault from Eddie Guerrero onto Bret Hart. Terry Funk putting Sabu through a table. It is great.
Yeah, this sells the game. So the front draws you in with that beautiful art style, and then the back shows you what you're getting graphically. Actually, in the game, the thing that bothers me the most about this, and I talked about it, this will now be the third time that I have mentioned this. Diamond Dallas Page does not look like Diamond Dallas Page. It looks like Chavo Guerrero.
Yeah, we should have. We didn't play as him. We should have done that. See what the character model looks like. I do remember it being cool. It's kind of like motivational speaker DDP. Yeah,
they have like mullet DDP.
Yeah,
and that's the DDP that looks the most like him. But it's they made his default attire and his icon on the character select screen modern. I'm using that 2004 modern short hair crew cut DDP, and one of the outfits that you can unlock is like classic.
But that makes sense because only 2 years earlier he was in the WWF looking like that.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying that it doesn't make sense. I'm just saying that they could have done a little bit better making him not look like Chavo Guerrero. But there is classic DDP with the the diamond the teal band with the diamond cutter gesture on the side of the trunks, and like he's got the mullet and the wrist tape. Like it looks like DDP.
Yeah, but they knocked it out of the park with this cover.
Oh yeah, this may go down, regardless of how you feel about the game, this may go down as one of the coolest video game covers. So we've talked a lot about graphically how the game presents itself, and the models of the wrestlers are if you're not so familiar with this game, but you are familiar with All Stars, there's a lot of parallels there.
Unfortunately.
Dramatized character models, everyone is just, they look like they got hooked up to a helium tank. Like they're normal body shape, but they're just inflated. Like the face scans, again, some are hit and miss. Like I feel like they did really, really well capturing the styles of the guys with the face paint. Road Warriors look like the Road Warriors. Sting looks like Sting. Warrior looks like Warrior. And there's not a lot of, I don't know, error in the designs. Like there's not like, oh, the face paint is not really that inaccurate, but you can kind of squint your eyes and it looks like him. Like Warrior's face paint is Warrior's face paint, and there's multiple versions of it. Road Warriors look the same. Like there's multiple versions of them, and the face paint looks great. But where there's a gray area is when you start getting into like Macho Man and DDP.
But I gotta say this, they didn't try to knock off like the NWO logo this time. They gave Hogan like the lightning pants with that classic like, oh, what do you even call it? Like a biker style Hogan shirt. Yeah, they're not trying to like work around the licensing anymore. We noticed this with Owens gear. It has like Slammies on it and the Heart logo, but it's like slightly modified. But it's not where you like are like, oh, that looks stupid. It's like where you squint and you're like, oh wow, how'd they do that?
Yeah, it's they're generic wrestling awards. They're not necessarily
Right.
Slammies. They just look very, very similar to the Slammies.
I have to go back to the SmackDown conversation.
Okay.
Have you seen the game disc for this? It's
Hold
it's also the start screen, the press start screen of the game.
Oh, yeah.
It's crushed up mirrors. Like bursting through mirrors, which is, like the SmackDown fist. Just going to throw that out there.
Crap.
Just throwing it out there. Hogan's fist is going through it with the other wrestlers in the little mirror spots.
When you're right, you're right. And you know what? Let's say, you know what? Here's what we're going to do. We're going to combine both answers. We're going to say
We don't have to.
it was the happy accident, and then they leaned into it. They were like, oh, Showdown, SmackDown, that's great. And then they were like, what are we going to do for the title screen? Like, let's lean in a little bit more to that SmackDown thing.
Yeah. Okay. We'll never know, but yeah. But the crowd, I think it's good. I think they're 3D rendered nicely, better than the first two games, and you got that dim upper bowl, so that's good. You don't have to see it. They changed the entrances to now have entrance videos of the guy. Jimmy Hart did the music. Like Sting, 2 different characters within Sting. He has 2 different sets of music, which is great. But there's also like subtle things, like the Road Warriors knee pads have the AMA logo on them, which is awesome. Like you have authenticity here in some places where you wouldn't expect it.
Oh, you don't even really get that in like modern games.
No.
Like there's just certain features that, not even features, certain details that you would just expect to go unnoticed. And if you're truly a fan, or in John's case and in SmashMaster's case, someone who's in the business, like these are the little details that you're going to notice. Like I'll notice the labels and like the logos on things, but if they're like, I don't like, AMA means nothing to me.
I get it, but I just noticed that and I thought that was cool.
But like, you're right though. That's a cool little detail that's in there.
Something else I noticed was, did you know? Did you know? Showdown Legends of Wrestling was the last game published by Acclaim Entertainment before the company's bankruptcy on the 1st of September in 2004.
Did you know this marks the 3rd Legends of Wrestling game where Jimmy Hart was the producer of all the original music?
Did you know Showdown Legends of Wrestling is on eBay for around $3 to $22 used, 110 to 298 sealed, with a few poster prints going for about $17 to $20.
Ooh,
I'm not about
poster prints.
I'm not about to get back into the poster game here.
No,
Not for this game. But Jimmy Hart always killed it with the music. I thought the first 2 games lacked like a little bit. They weren't that great. They weren't really I don't know, they could have been better. And I think it was one of them had real music in it, but it was just the game's soundtrack that played over and over again. I think that might have been 2. And that was a little weak, but good old Jimmy. So
I mean, it's great.
It's great.
If it's not broke, don't fix it. The man
exactly.
The man has produced and been involved with so many different styles of wrestling themes for how many decades, and now you need someone to create music that is close to original themes without being complete ripoffs where the game's gonna get sued. I mean, Macho Man's theme is, I'm pretty sure it's his TNA theme.
It's Pomp and Circumstance. It's very easy to
but it's the rock version.
Yeah.
Like it's the heavy rock version. So the themes for like everyone, pretty good. I mean,
they're pretty spot on.
They're like if you went to go find like the karaoke version, like Hulk Hogan's Red and Yellow theme is like a weird mashup of his traditional Real American theme and his WCW theme. And it's like, you combine them and like got a karaoke version of a Hulk Hogan theme song that you were going to sing over. That's what's in this game.
Yeah, and they did a good job. But this has been a long one. We've been going. This might be one of our longest episodes ever. It might beat Hardcore Revolution, ironically, another Acclaim game. But what do you say we kick back right now? We relax. We go through some R&R, some ratings and reviews.
I'm ready.
So Metacritic for the PS2 version has a 55 out of 100 ranked, and the Xbox a 57 out of 100. Now, I think we gave this game way more credit than the critics did, because EGM gives Across the Board a 3 out of 10.
Oh.
Game Informer with a 6 out of 10.
Oh.
Game Pro with a 4 out of 5 stars. All right.
All right.
GameSpot with a 6.5 out of 10. GameSpy with a 2 out of 5 stars. Oh. Now, here's a differential. Is that even a word? GameZone with a 5 out of 10 for PS2 and a 6.5 out of 10 for Xbox. You have to think that's just like visually. IGN with a 5.9 out of 10. OPM only rated the PS2 with a 1.5 stars.
Oh.
OXM only rated the Xbox version, go figure, with a 5.9 out of 10. And XPlay with a 2 out of 5 stars. Now, Xbox Nation called this game a steaming duty with extra stank on it. That's pretty harsh.
Damn, man.
Now, I want to go back. I want to check right now what Legends of Wrestling got, because... Okay. Kind of weird. Legends of Wrestling was kind of in the 7s out of 10, 6 and 7s out of 10, which is kind of weird to me, because this game is a giant upgrade. Whereas Legends 2 is also in the same realm, like 6.8, 6.5. But, I mean, there are some 5s in here, but
I think
damn.
This goes to that feeling that I was talking about before. If the first two games, you either loved it or you hated it, if you didn't think that the third one was going to be good, regardless of what changes it, but I guess they rated the second one higher.
I guess when you're comparing, right?
Huh. I don't know. That's weird.
All I do know is we just heard all of these ratings from the professionals, from the publications, but it's time for our rating, because it's the moment of truth. It's the showdown. It's time to rate the game.
The game!
George Feis.
Oh, no.
Yeah, you're going first this week.
I was hoping I was going to cut you off and beat you to it.
Showdown, Legends of Wrestling, the third Legends of Wrestling game. Will you play it forever?
Woo!
Or future endeavor?
You're fired!
This is tough. All right. This may be a walk the line game for me, because it's the best out of the Legends of Wrestling series. But in video games as a whole, it's so near the bottom.
Mm.
But like there are some aspects of the game that are just so cool. And like I genuinely enjoyed through single player and when we played, both you and I, and when we played with Max. Like the transition spots are just super cool and they're so fluid and nice. The arenas are cool. It's nice that there's these licensed arenas that replicate famous events that have happened there. But then there's like the creative suite's not great. And then the story mode and like the unlocking of the matches is like not great. And oh man. I think this is gonna be a future endeavor for me.
You're fired!
Damn. So
It's like it's walking that line though. It's like it's so close to being a play it forever. Like I actually like this is gonna be one of those games that like when I play it for our Patreon show, I'm gonna be like, what did I future endeavor this?
That's the thing. So with that, my memory of this game was good, and overall, going back and playing it for the first time in like 15 years, I kind of enjoyed it like I did the first time. And it's more so like, let me see what this guy looks like. Let me see what this guy looks like. Let me see this moveset. Let me see this match. Let me see this arena. There's just a lot to like, I guess like feast your eyes on, if that makes any sense.
But is part of that nostalgia goggles?
No, because I had the same reactions. It was like I played it for the first time again. But then actually playing the game, how much they improve from the first two. If I were to pick one, it would be this. Does that carry along a play it forever?
That's what I'm saying.
I'm going to go with yes. I'm going to go with play it forever.
See, now you're making me second guess my rating.
There's just certain games that I think the nostalgia goggles help, but you can't make a decision based off that. And like when you look past that, this one, I don't know. I just liked it. Question. Well,
I'm switching.
You're switching?
I'm switching.
Oh my God.
Switching. Live on the podcast, the first time ever, during the episode, live switch.
I don't know about first time ever.
I think it's the first time I've ever switched in the middle of it.
Hang on. I got it in the notes. Hang on. Nope. Shin Nippon Pro Wrestling, Tokan Retsuden, George flipped. I have it asterisked.
No. First time I've ever flipped live while recording.
Yeah, you did that the next week, I guess, but I guess not while doing this part.
Because like I said, this game walks that line, and it's not the best game, but like there are just certain features, like you said, that are just
even the roster. Like this is a great roster.
That's another thing. Like it's huge, and you can make all these lineups. Yeah, I'm switching it.
Okay. All right.
Well, that very confusing time to rate the games, I apologize, is out of the way. But I think it's time for us to talk about the weekly tournament that we have here on this podcast. It is time for Clash at the Feast.
All right, for this week's episode where we play Showdown, Legends of Wrestling, and we also have a bonus out with Max SmashMaster, head on over to youtube.com/GameMarksPodcast. But last week we played Wrestle Kingdom. Let's go through this here, because the first match, George chose Shinsuke Nakamura. Johnny chose Jushin Thunder Liger. I mean, how could you not? He looks incredible in this game. And Shinsuke took the win. So I'm down, okay? I'm down.
Coming out strong.
So George chooses Kenta. Not Kenta Kobashi, Kenta. Gianni chooses Brock Lesnar. Because why wouldn't I choose the most dominant guy in the game, right? Brock in his Japanese red attire, not very common. And I took Kenta and treated him like a rag doll.
It was like watching a Brock Lesnar match in 2020.
So then we get to match number 3 for all the marbles, our showdown per se.
2019 Brock Lesnar.
George chooses Muta. Great, good choice. John,
what's that motto that you have?
If it ain't broke, choose the same guy. I was Brock again. Listen, Muta put up a fight. He's clearly very dominant in this game. He misted me early, but it didn't matter. I'm still Brock Lesnar. And your winner for week 2 of November. Play my damn music.
Not everything's made to last. This is my life.
It's okay. I've been up to nothing before, and you come and take the win. See what happened this week with Showdown Legends of Wrestling. We'll see if I take the win or not.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But listen, we went really, really long here. Should we talk about what we're playing next week?
Yeah, let's put a bow on this.
All right, so next week, courtesy of Megamark Brett Van, we will be playing, going back to a classic that we haven't had on the podcast in, I'd say like a month and a half. We'll be playing Fire Pro Wrestling D. Now, this is Fire Pro Wrestling for the Dreamcast, so this is going to be awesome. Get to go back to the Dreamcast. I love playing these Dreamcast games. John, are you ready for a little Fire Pro?
It's been a while. I'm ready. I think last time you whooped my ass, so we'll see what happens.
That seems to be the running trend here. But listen, every time we play a Fire Pro game, you get better now that you like the series, so it's anyone's game. But that is going to do it for us this week on the Game Marks Podcast. Please check out our merchandise at GameMarksPod.com/shop. And join us on Patreon, patreon.com/GameMarksPod. It's the best way besides listening to support the podcast. And be sure to follow us on all forms of social media at GameMarksPod. Leave us a 5-star review and a rating on Apple Podcast and subscribe to wherever you choose to listen to podcasts. Thank you very much for hanging out with us this week. We hope you have a happy Thanksgiving. John, do that thing you do.
Game over, Marks.
Part of me was hoping that you were going to do a turkey noise. Please leave that in. Please leave that in.
Game Marks Podcast, put them on the radar. Playing rare games, Sega Saturn, no Game Shark. Johnny and George work hard and they play hard. Future endeavor games and put them in the graveyard. From the deep dive to the clash at the feast. How can I get more? That's question of the week. Follow on Twitch, there's nothing that they won't play. Game Marks Podcast every single Monday.